Well, friends, I have some good news for you today. And that good news is this, that Jesus is never late. Let me explain what I mean. As we were looking at the story this past Sunday from John chapter 11, a part of the Bible that is a wonderful story about Jesus resurrecting. And we just celebrated Easter and Resurrection Sunday. And we were looking at this story, and I would encourage you to look at it as well. I would encourage you to grab a Bible. If you don't have a Bible, go online. You can go to BibleGateway.com, Bible.com. There's all kinds of places where you can find a Bible and look up John chapter 11. And in this story, Jesus hears about, well, a friend of his, and word is sent to Jesus that a friend is sick. And Lazarus is sick, and well, really sick. Like so sick that he actually passes away. He dies. And Martha and Mary, Lazarus' sisters, send word to Jesus that, well, their brother's sick and he needs help. And Jesus decides not to go at that point. He waits a few days before he goes. And the story goes, you may know it, but by the time Jesus does set out to go, and by the time he gets there, Martha runs out to him and says, "It's too late." Well, if you take some time, and I would encourage you to read the story, the whole story, we didn't even read it all on Sunday. I would suggest that we find out in this story and in lots of places in God's Word that Jesus is never late. Jesus is not limited by time or space. Jesus is not limited by even death, which he shows in the story of Lazarus. He raises Lazarus from the dead. And even though Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days, Jesus brings him back to life. You see, Jesus is never late. Martha thought it was too late. Martha thought that Jesus didn't get there in time. Well, as I'm looking at this story, as I was reading it again, even today, I've just been immersing myself in it because this is the story that reminds us that Jesus is the resurrection and the life. We just came through a weekend where we celebrated Jesus' resurrection, but Jesus also brought Lazarus back to life. And this story reminds us that even when we think it's too late, Martha thought it was too late, Jesus says, no, it's not too late. It's not too late. And he raises Lazarus from the dead. Jesus is never late. Jesus is not bound by time and space. And death cannot hold Jesus down, and it didn't hold Lazarus down. And so, friends, sometimes in this life, time and space, we feel like, well, why is God waiting? What is he up to? How come he's not up to anything? Sometimes we have to wait. And sometimes we even think God's late. He's just not showing up. As we see in the story of Lazarus in John chapter 11, Jesus is not late. Jesus is right on time and does exactly what he knew he was going to do. And that can bring encouragement to us today. If we're in a season of waiting, if we're wondering, what's all the hype about, all this Easter talk of resurrection? Why hasn't God done anything yet in my life, in the life of somebody else? Well, friends, in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 9, we read, God is not slow in keeping his promises, as some understand slowness to be, but he is patient with us. He doesn't want anyone to perish. He doesn't want anyone to be separated from him. He is patient. And so sometimes we don't always understand what God is up to. We don't always understand his timing. We think he is late. But I want to tell you today that based on what I read and what I've experienced in life, God is not slow in keeping his promises. Jesus is not late. And so, as we go about life, may we take comfort in this, strength from this. May we keep watching, keep waiting. May we learn to be patient as God is patient. It is good news, friends, that Jesus is never late, and it's good news that we have a patient God. He's a God that can bring life from death. He is a God who shows up just when we need him. We simply have to call out and cry out and turn things over to him. May we be patient today as God is patient. Peace be with you and have a great Wednesday.